You should.
Well, we are still in a kind of a little area here.
Oh yeah.
Dave, you think your people will expect you to be sitting here? Don't bump that. Some of this stuff I'm going to edit, some I'm not.
If I was gonna bump that,
You look nice. You dressed up for this. Dave, it's on. You're right here, Dave.
this is what I wear to work.
No, you dressed up for
Okay.
this.
Did you want me at my tennis gear?
You know what? You look good no matter what you got on. So that's a good take on the whole thing, because I am mindful of, number one, I'm in business, so I represent.
You have a reputation.
I have a reputation. So no matter where I'm at, I may
phone off.
be around people who hold me accountable for the things that come out of my mouth. I'm a little looser on a tennis
Well,
court.
they may not want to do business with you.
Pardon?
They may not want to do with you.
Right. And my business leans in the other direction of where my general philosophy comes from. Although I try to, that's a good introduction into what I would like to touch on. So what I would like to do is try and find a way to share space with people who are strong in their beliefs, see if we can navigate a conversation and share common ground without it going off the rails, because my experience is every day it gets worse with the division with people.
And define what you getting worse. What are we talking about? Are we talking about politics? Are we talking about the economy, the world in general? Are we talking about leadership?
I'm old, so I've been around for a long time, and everything's divisive. We're divided on everything, and we have less and less ability to share space with each other. I know people in the tennis community that have eliminated people that they play tennis with because of their political beliefs, even though their politics usually don't find their way on the tennis court, for example. I mean, do you ever talk politics on tennis? It doesn't come up.
No, I've had one, and it's not politics, but it's related, like vaccines. I've run into that of, like, talking to people, finding out people have a preference for that one way or the other. And in my, like, that's kind of what I've put my career, a lot of my towards. So I get a little bit passionate, but that's like a dinner.
You should keep that to yourself on a tennis court, because you don't know where those people are lurking out there that don't like what you do.
I made one error. I'm not as experienced as you, and I apologized. And we're still playing tennis, and I try not to talk about it.
Okay, so are you in the business of vaccines?
I'm in the business of designing medicines.
Okay, and so yeah, I mean that could be a whole different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean,
but I think your point's right. Is like and my theory is that this was an inevitability when information took this technology leap, and we're able to access people of like-minded people with whatever we want to talk about instantaneously across the web. And so it gives validity, which is good. But if you look through history, just in general, every time we've had a major technology advance in information sharing, gathering, storing, it's been followed by violence, polarization, power struggle. I mean, back to the first, cuneiform type.
Well, look at what the printing press did.
Yeah, exactly.
The printing press was responsible for organizing people.
100%.
Organizing for good, organizing for bad.
Always.
Yeah, the Gutenberg printing press back in the...
I mean, look at World War II, World War I, that the telegraph's coming out. I mean, radio, all these things. So
Right.
On the exponential peak heading up with the internet, where information is exchanged instantaneously, it never goes away. I mean, that's a lot for our brains to think about. But this might be getting off track of what you want to talk about.
No, so we invented this thing that is a tool that should be amazing at sorting and giving us common ground to stand on. And yet it's more divisive than ever, it seems like.
What brings it to the surface?
Well, no, it's also giving voice to a lot of other people who didn't, prior to this, have a voice. I mean, think about, going back 30, 40 years ago, when it was maybe 4 or 5 major TV stations that you watched, and the editors of major newspapers were responsible
very controlled.
for editorial content. Now, this forum right now. Anyone can have their own podcast. Anyone can broadcast.
Anyone? I'm not just anyone.
Well,
You're kidding me?
covered that in your
You made that me sound
very old and very important. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
I didn't take that person. I'm making it.
Yeah.
It's one of the four principles.
There's also a lot of cognitive dissonance out there though, as well.
It's a responsibility when you have that. Like, this is true democracy. If people can get a voice and, pull people in, but it's a responsibility too, I think. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Cognitive dissonance, though, is essentially when you continue to double down, even though the facts are not on your side. There's a lot of that. And I think because there's so many different disparate voices out there, it makes it hard for a lot of people to finally figure out that they're on the wrong side of an argument. And the facts are not with them.
And facts are even hard to come by these days.
So what's going on there? Why it would seem to me like now it would be easier, but there's something going on there that is higher than the value of landing on the right answer. And you're very invested. You spend a lot of time trying to understand what's in front of you and what's going on and sort and come up with an answer that makes sense to you. And you represent it consistently out there to give people an opportunity to join the conversation. Would you say that?
Wow.
Wow.
You didn't tell me that in the intro. That's a call.
I thought he was an unserious person, but I was wrong.
I was just joking.
No, I mean, more than 50% of the American population reads or comprehends at either a sixth grade or below level. So that in itself is a major problem right there, that we have a population that is not able to comprehend and is not very literate and does not really read. And I think these folks tend to be, they tend to be more susceptible to internet messaging because it's very quick. You've got TikTok, you've got, Instagram, you've got all this stuff that is not about a long attention span and deep comprehension and reading a book. It's about quick messaging and things like that. So I think, America's a big place. It's a big country. It's got a lot of people. How I grew up is very different than how maybe you grew up or you grew up, and all that influences our thinking and how we feel about things. But I think that we also have a major problem with reading and comprehension. And if half of the population is reading at a sixth grade level or below, I think they're more susceptible to some of these internet influencers and, maybe not paying attention to mainstream media as much as possible, where maybe there's more factual reporting on things and more susceptible to, easy to understand messaging that is really kind of what a lot of these influencers and apps and TikTok and things like that are about. So
how it just pops into my head. That's great. That was a really good summary of it. And I think that's right. And a few things popped into my head, like especially how you introduced it of, back when we were kids. I was born before the internet too. You got to watch cartoons on Saturday morning. That was pretty much it. You got to, I grew up watching Michigan football because they were always on ABC at 10, kind of thing. So it was controlled. Yeah. So the question is did we have the facts back then, or we were just all controlled into the same level of nation and the same perspective? And then the second thing that jumped out to me.
Before Fox News, you mean?
Any of the channels. I mean,
libtards.
I think it is
had control over the media, and then Fox.
I think it is important to not make this political because it's a bigger thing, like you were saying. It's people, gravitating towards what they want to hear, not looking at the whole picture and critically thinking about it.
Involves investing some time,
yeah, and not just emotion.
But that doesn't address the people at the top, because they're educated and they certainly have an agenda. So getting the attention of all of the people, all of the masses, is one problem. But all of the people that are in Congress that are yelling at each other with very different ways of going about things don't do well at finding common ground. It doesn't seem like what we do is we hire the best and brightest amongst us. They get into a room and make good decisions. We tend towards our party affiliates, and a party votes and sees and represents a certain ideology regardless of anything else, and then they go and butt heads, and it doesn't seem like they're filtering for truth. So even aside from the media, where the division between the Democrats and Republicans seem to be getting more defined. In fact, on the right now, they're kind of coming apart. It looks like they're kind of getting divided themselves. But my point is as a tool, is there a tool we can use that doesn't look like politics, that we can come together and find a way to move forward, filtering for the best answer? Because politics was supposed to be the tool that we used. We're going to do a democracy. And I think in the beginning, there was some value to it, but it seems like we're struggling. Like for you, for example, I think you're passionate and I think you're invested, and I think that you really want for people to wake up and do a better job, because we can do better. Are people available for the information that you're bringing to them so they can understand how to navigate forward better? Or are everyone's just, they're on that side, you're on this side, and no one's listening?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems right now is money in politics. Maybe you've read that Elon Musk is going to spend $100 million, which is he going out to lunch in the midterms. And that's just his starting statement. It may escalate from there. So I think
what's he going to spend it on? I haven't read that. If that's not important.
Fraudulent messaging is what he's going to spend it on. He's going to try to influence the midterms so the Republicans get some help, which they're really going to need a lot. But to me, I think the biggest thing is money in politics. And I think the Citizens United decision, the John Roberts Court Citizens United decision, is a complete, unmitigated disaster. It's allowed corporations to act as individuals. It's opened up dark money. It's opened up billionaires to polluting the whole political conversation. So I think my way forward is probably it's not the kumbaya forward. I think that you have to elect people who are committed to a constitutional amendment, whatever, to overturn Citizens United, because we have to get money out of politics. Mm-hmm. Corporations are not people. They cannot spend unlimited money, which is essentially, advocating for whatever it is that they want to advocate for, less taxes, environmental deregulation, whatever. But I think Citizens United have to have major campaign finance reform. I think that's really the way forward. And we have to shorten the election cycle. So publicly financed elections, we have to really kind of tighten the noose, because money is completely polluting this whole thing. Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk bought Twitter for a reason. And if you he has a large following. Mm-hmm. I am actually kind of a Tesla fan. I bought a Tesla car like 6 years ago.
It's really cool.
I got a hybrid myself. It's completely, where he was then and where he is now but he bought Twitter so that he could have a voice and he could influence politics. And I think that money is, especially when we go back to, people, there's a large segment of the population that is just very susceptible to this sort of messaging, the kind of messaging that he puts out, like on Twitter. And so I think the road forward is we need a clean sweep of Republicans this election cycle. We need to retake the House and we need to retake the Senate. That'll put a check on Trump. He's 80 years old. He's obviously not doing what's best or following through on his promises that he made to the American people. No wars. Right. I'm going to lower your cost of living. Right. Yada, yada, yada. Look at what he's done. Look at what he's done to the farmers. They saw this in 2016, the tariffs. Now, it's decimating a lot of farm communities.
So let me ask you this question.
Absolutely.
Here's my premise is to pull back, because I think you pay attention well, and you try to understand a way forward that makes sense. and you invest a lot of time in it, I can tell. Okay. So let's back way up. And before you go into the conversation, let me throw this out there. We have this tool we use. It's called politics, right? We're a democracy. And so we've been running this experiment for 225 or something years.
250 years.
250.
It's the 250th birthday.
Yeah. So the tool that you want to use, you say, okay, here's this is an obvious no-brainer. We need to do this right here. So you go, the tool I use to accomplish this task is the very thing that you're struggling with. And you go, well, part of my problem is messaging. Is if I could just get, the right people in the room at the right time and they just sifted through the data, they would understand that this way forward makes sense. Problem is the only tool that you have is politics. And so, number one, you got money in politics. And again, in my lifetime, I watched how every president that gets elected says, I'm going to be different. Things are going to be better. The working man's going to make more money. And there's been a consistent line on that graph in a particular direction. And it's not trending towards anything that anyone was saying back then. And my question is, if you were going to do like his business, you're a scientist, you're trying to find the answer to a particular question. Like, what are you working on right now? Can we talk about it as a top secret?
No, we're the way, just like everything, the way technology is going, we're designing more complicated drugs to hit more complicated targets. And so delivery systems that worked back in the 50s or earlier, are evolving to help get those more smarter medicines into people's bodies.
So you go, there's the problem here's a problem in front of me. What are the tools you're going to use to find out what the answer to the question is? So my question to you is that I used to be very much more political than I am right now. I usually anymore try to avoid bringing politics into a question that's real, that has real implications into a situation, because it doesn't solve anything. Like whatever you do if you're on a tennis court, politics don't come up because it's going to divide people. And I've watched it, and it doesn't solve any problems. So if you're going to, what you're saying is, I think that most average people in a democracy would agree with what you're saying about getting money out of politics. It's not complicated. If they here's the reality of it. But as I watch this whole thing moving, it's favoring a certain class of person. We're incentivizing a certain type of person. It appears to me that some people are making out better than other people. And the other people that aren't making out as well, there's way more of them. So that's kind of curious if we live in a democracy. So maybe we're susceptible to misinformation as human beings. We are. So if we stepped back away from that particular tool, you and I, and just sat down and say, let's put the problem in front of us. We went over to your business and say, bring us in on the conversation and let's find our way forward. I wouldn't need to bring my Democratic or Republican background with me to solve that problem. I would want to be as crisp to the truth as I possibly can hold myself to get the answer to the question if there was value in it.
Yep.
Before you go to pull the lever, because my problem is it divides us. And it's curious because it seems to me like a question, you should be able to come to a question without the baggage of I'm representing a tribe. I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm an independent. And that's what I'm bringing into this problem solving, rather than just bringing a handful of people, whatever problem you want to solve. I would bring in the best of your abilities to be able to focus on the problem, share space. Again, I'm better if I'm sharing space with smart people who are putting their attention on the same problem that I am.
And just for context, when we talked last time, I think that was a point of discussion for us, is like, are those effectively tools, like, just to keep using your word, to describe the situation, and people are innately going to form tribes, and these are just like religion, politics, let's just stick with those two. There's probably others, but those come off the top of my head, because I would say it's pretty well known that, if we came from chimpanzees can't live in a community of bigger than 150 individuals. We've broken that by being able to form little sub-tribes that are still working towards big things. So it's sort of in our DNA to say, I need to be in a tribe. Here's politics. Here's religion. So I'd be curious your thoughts on that, because we were talking about it last time.
So how do we move forward without politics? Kind of.
Let me ask you this question.
Or can we have the discussion without getting into...
Could you come into the question of should money be in politics the way that it is now without you representing this philosophy, a general this side or that side philosophy? Say, let's just sort for the facts and see where that takes us. I'm willing to go wherever it goes. If the answer is yes, I'll go yes. If the answer is no, I'll go no. I'm more interested in ending up in the right place than I am representing the wrong idea and holding on to that to the end. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think getting money out of politics is either a Democratic imperative or a Republican imperative. It should be an imperative for all of us, because the billionaires that are polluting the ecosystem represent, a fraction of the population, and they're not representing the common man's interests.
So
if you're a Republican and you are getting rid of Citizens United, going with publicly funded elections, having very strict campaign finance reform laws in place, you're invited to my tribe,
Right.
whatever. But I mean, if you're resistant to that, maybe what you're representing is just more of the status quo. And we have to step out of the status quo because things are evolving at a faster and faster clip due to the information society that we live in. So I don't think getting money out of politics is either a Republican or a Democrat thing. I think it's a we thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we can all rally around, unless one side feels that it's to their advantage, status quo as we see it right now.
So, okay, you get out of the status quo. So that's kind of what I'm saying, is somehow, how do we remove ourselves from the conflict and arrive at a good answer that serves us better?
Can we go back far enough to find a point? And I actually think we're all kind of like-minded on some of the lower level things, but as a population, can we go on a simple statement like you've said, like when I have a good day, when you two have a good day, or so it feels cheesy, or kind of lip service or something to say, but it is so simple to say, like, wouldn't that be a great place to live if everybody went home at night knowing they made sure everybody else had a great day?
And
I think that's what your book is about.
Let me give you a little snippet of the other side and their philosophy. I went to a high school graduation party. The host of the graduation party assembled after the graduation ceremony, and we were all eating barbecue at their house. The host gathered together a group of 16, 17, and 18-year-olds that were at the party, some of the graduates, some of their friends, whatever. And he had some advice for them. And he said, this is what Dana White said. Dana White said, be a savage. Now, this is from a guy who high-level position in a military contractor, went to college, smart guy, ex-Marine, but that was his go out in the world and be a savage. Now, you guys are talking
the opposite.
You guys are talking some kumbaya shit here. I love it, but you have to know that there's another part of the country where it's seriously be a savage.
Yeah.
He was not joking to these kids. He was dead serious to them.
Yeah.
Go out and be a savage.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and if you don't start eating dogs, you're not going to make it.
And he specifically referenced Dana White. Well, Dana White, if you don't know who he is, he's the billionaire entrepreneur creator of MMA and that whole entertainment complex, the same complex that put a cage match on the front lawn of the White House, best friends with Donald Trump. So that's kind of what you're up against here. It's kumbaya versus be a savage.
Okay, so that's a good point. So that's what my what I'm trying to say is that there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that what unites us is bigger and stronger than what divides us. And what divides us, if we allowed it some space, right? So again, when I'm on the tennis court, I don't bring anything that's divisive there. And I like doing
Have you played with him? I don't know if that's 100% true.
I like,
Yeah, I've played with him before. He's the most relaxed, funny, whatever happens. And I think he has a great attitude on the tennis court. I mean, I wish that I could, not be as serious about a missed shot or a blown opportunity. Travis has the right attitude on the tennis court. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
And I think you're probably bringing some of that spirit to the conversation here today.
Yeah. I think that's
It's a good attitude to have. I wish I could emulate it. But,
I'm like that.
I hate it when you're at the net.
Right.
Go for the ball.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just me, but
he motivates me differently, but that's okay.
So whatever I'm doing, same thing with my business is if I try to leave out things that are divisive, if you can motivate people with a way that doesn't leave anybody out, pursuit of excellence, that's what I like. Tennis is, we're sharing this our love and pursuit of this game that we'll never master. So that's at the heart of everything. And then if you can do it around good people.
That's why we're not playing pickleball.
And so bring people together and do that thing. We don't need to bring in the things that tribalism, religion, politics, all of those things that they're not going to give you anything. So I do it at my business too. I don't use any of those tools to problem solve in my business, to have a conversation with the people that work here. It is a set of values that when tested, don't leave anyone out, bring people together. And it's never failed in my application of it, regardless of what scenario I'm in. That those particular things work all of the time, every time. And when I'm doing that, I don't look for the divisive things. I don't need to go find the argument to jump into. And I'm around people a lot who are just on the wrong side of things. And one thing I am certain of is we are a product of luck. No one gets to choose who your parents were, what year you were born, what country you were born in. All of the things that play a role on landing you in this moment in time. And you don't even know all of the little things and the degree with which each one of those items moved you. So I give people the benefit of the doubt and forgive them for they know not what they do. And I start there, and it's easy to allow space for people who just got bad information or who were raised wrong or anything like that, because number one, it doesn't need to be in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? We should be able to talk about the war in Iran. I think that there's a right answer about that, or what's going on with our funding Israel and all of the money that's going there. I think there's an answer to that. Most of the difficult problems that we face, we are very qualified to come up with good answers for. I don't know that it makes sense that everyone needs to be in every conversation with their opinion. I don't know that there's any value. I think we're all better off focusing on a way that we're better at being who we are and impacting the world that's in front of us than jumping into arguments just because it's an easy reaction to have. So my curiosity is, I understand, I see this a lot that you see, and I see it the same way you see it. And I'm around people all the time, and we keep coming back, pulling on the same lever, is we're going to use politics and the things that divide us while our country and the world is moving in a direction that is incentivizing and rewarding a certain handful of people that in reality, if you sat down and asked your average person, you would say, no, that doesn't even make sense. That group of people aren't the ones that we want to be incentivizing, except for that's the way it's always been. The people that are seeking power, the people that want a lot of money, that a handful of people that are wired that way find themselves in leadership roles for a specific set of reasons. And everybody else most people are just doing whatever they're doing and impacting it in whatever way, democracy or whatever. So what would happen if we started another conversation like right now? And what we're going to do is we can meander and go touch any subject we want, be honest, and stick to some reasonable way of sharing space and without bringing in things that are dividing us. So pretend like if I was a hardcore Republican, whatever. I think that we could actually have conversation there. I think we should practice it, but I think that we should avoid whatever divides us and we would find that it got less oxygen and eventually just didn't get any oxygen.
Okay. Yeah. I can agree with all that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome because you're very invested in a philosophy. But again, I also think that you put a lot of time in finding the facts and weighing it and sorting for it.
Well, I think too, we all need to get involved.
That's 100%.
You know, I mean, the best way to get involved is to start locally. So if there is that's advocating for fairness and equality and environmental justice and a government that works for all people, if you found that group, then you should go spend time with that group and help that group and try to move that messaging forward. So I belong to a group trying to change things here locally. We're also trying to reach out to like-minded people in having porch conversations with people. It could be a starter where you're talking about maybe their garden next door. I think we all need to kind of get involved with organizations and groups. I think we're seeing kind of a drop off of people. It could be church. It could be civic organizations. It could be political organizations. It doesn't matter. People are not joining groups anymore. They're not participating. They're kind of getting locked down into their own little kind of caverns. And I think if you want to affect change, it's good to put yourself out, get involved, join an organization that you believe in. And when it comes time, election time, maybe you're out knocking on doors in your neighborhood, having conversations with people, you know, about what they want to vote in. We had a huge number of people who didn't vote in the last presidential election. Why is that? Why are people
That's surprising.
not voting? I mean, those people could have made a difference.
Yeah.
They could have made a difference in the outcome that we have right now and what's happening. So I would urge people to get involved. Get outside your own little world, get outside the door, go out and talk to people locally. Like, you know, there's people running for Bend City Council right now. You know, they're having meet and greets. Could be over at Alpenglow Park. There was one there Thursday night by a woman who wants to run for Bend City Council. We need to go out and have conversations with those people. Start locally. And if there's something you're passionate about and believe in, get out there and find your tribe and be part of the conversation to move the country forward, because people are, you know, they're moving away from joining groups. They're moving away from voting, and that's not helping the situation.
Let's dive into that, because I think that's really interesting, because I see the same thing, and I attribute it to mostly, like, let's just take the political thing. As you said, regardless of party, if you look at your history, everybody makes promises and nobody keeps them. And you could take a step back and be like, well, the quality of life of, like, flushing toilets and electricity and that type of resources that we have has never been better. So in a sense, we are continuing to get better and better, but mentally, maybe it's not feeling good. But I guess my point is it feels like, I personally believe this, that politics has been enough of a, it's almost getting in the noise, and people don't see how you can impact change through it, because it's so driven by, you have to have $1 billion, or it just feels like you can't get involved. You can't change the needle. And so you see this in corporations too.
So what do you suggest?
I don't have a good answer right now, but I think understanding.
Do you vote?
I do.
So do you think that your vote matters?
Honestly, I think Oregon's going to go a certain way. I still vote. I still think it's important, but I'm just saying, I think that's how I feel. And I probably echo, like, so there's a decent number of people who probably think like,
So do you think the politics by voting, that if you just get the vote out and get enough people, that you can solve some of the problems that we've got in front of us?
I guess maybe a different way to say it is, I don't see enough tangible differences in either of the platforms. Now,
Is
I'm not
that a
saying
yes
every-
or no? Do you think your vote, politics, this tool that we have that you're using, say, what do you can solve the problem with the war in Iran? Should we be in Iran?
No.
Okay, so how would you go about changing that scenario? Are you going to vote different next time?
the same, which was not.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to say is, so you go, things don't work very well right now. I want to make things different because, again, my
Right.
whole life that's been going on. So you're going to go, what tool are you going to use? Politics. I'm going to go vote. So if you go door to door,
I agree with everything you said, by the way.
how do you avoid conflict? You go knock on somebody's door. Do you trigger them with your political stance, or you try and avoid conflict, find common ground first?
Well, I volunteer for a group called the Neighborhood Leader Program. And so we try to be neighborhood leaders in a 2 to 3 block area of where we live during election time to encourage people to vote. And so we're not knocking on Republican doors. We're knocking on Democrat doors, sometimes independent doors, depending on the situation and the election or whatever. But, let me kind of like backtrack a little bit, because I had an experience like 3 years ago that shows that we can come together.
Oh, cool.
3 years ago, there was Tyson, a major supplier of
Chicken.
broilers. They decided that they wanted to come to Oregon because Oregon has very lax water laws. Our water laws date back to the turn of the century. So they decided that they wanted to build 3 giant mega chicken farms in a little town called Scio.
Never heard of it.
SCIO. It's in the Willamette. Anyway, Scio is kind of a nice little bucolic community of mostly Republicans, hobby farmers, small farmers, people that just, kind of want to be in a small rural area that's nice, where they can kind of do their own thing. Like I said, be it hobby farming, small farming, ranching, whatever. Anyway, to make a long story short, Tyson decided that they wanted to go to Scio with their 3, million broilers per year per farm, because they would have access to large quantities of cheap water. Now, obviously, if these mega farms, if you can call them farms, they're not really farms, they're industrialized agriculture, which is where your meat comes from nowadays. But these farms would totally change a lot about Scio. You would have smells. You would have pollution. You would have potential mega pollution issues.
Mm-hmm.
You would have changes with the roads, and there would be a lot of things that were not agreeable to the residents of this community. They'd be using large quantities of water. They would be near churches and schools, these mega polluting factory farms. They would be near the North Santiam River, which could complicate things if there was, an industrial pollution type spill that could pollute that area and wildlife and things like that. So what happened? Well, the residents decided that they didn't want this. And they all essentially came together, both Democrats and Republicans, and they decided to involve a lot of different groups in this issue, because they didn't want this to change their way of life. And it would have greatly changed their way of life. So they got their political representatives involved, those who would speak for them and actually do something for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a whole bunch of disparate groups that are involved in the issue of factory farms and pollution and preserving ways of life, if you will. And they put so much pressure on their elected representatives that the elected representatives eventually passed a bill, Senate Bill 85, and it put in place some stock watering laws that didn't give these people the unlimited water use that they wanted. It had some components where you couldn't be this close to a school or a river or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, SB 85 came into being, and it came into being because the Democrats in that community and the Republicans in that community all decided to work together because they didn't want these mega polluting chicken ranches in their town. They knew that this would greatly change things.
Yeah.
So there are instances where both sides can come together when there's an issue.
When you have a common enemy.
When you have a common enemy.
Right.
And in this case,
That's a great example.
they had a common enemy, and it was a major win because they were up against big corporate interests. I mean, I don't know if you know Tyson, but they're one of the largest poultry processors in the United States. And so they brought to bear, money and the promises of jobs and things like this and economic activity and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the residents all got together. It took a long time. They fought this, and those chicken ranches never happened in their town because the residents, vast majority, including Democrats and Republicans, didn't want it. So when there's an issue that we can all congregate around and get active on, I think you can see
that's a
Republicans and Democrats coming together, for the common good. In this case, this is where actually, laws and government and the legislature, they were responsive enough that they did something, and a law happened, and that law was not on the side of a billion-dollar industry. It was on the side of the people who actually live in the community, and they didn't want this.
It's a great example of the tool being used in a good way for good outcome, in my opinion.
So
excellent.
That illustrates my point is you're saying, let me give you an example where you sit some people down and they don't bring their party affiliation with them. And you go, let's sort based on quality of life forward, and we're just going to try and isolate the facts so we understand them better. So where is any value with all of the politics around what you're talking about? Because what you're explaining is they could come to a decision. The challenge was getting through the politics to be able to get to the place that they needed to get to. Politics made it harder, even though
they set aside their politics.
Right, but what I'm saying is they couldn't just go, this is what we're going to do. They had to get the representatives involved, the representatives of both parties, because that's the tool that we have. We have politics is how we make decisions and solve problems. So the community gets together, you get a handful of people that can come to the right conclusion, say this is what we're going to do. I'm sure not everybody was on board for it, but a majority of the people say we're not susceptible to advertising from Tyson. They didn't get to us with bad data and mucking things up.
And certainly the promise of millions of dollars.
Sure, exactly. Yeah,
that's a big point.
So, but what I'm saying is politics was the only lever to pull. They had to have politics. Politics made it harder. And you're using a specific example that was probably isolated and a much easier one to pull off than something like we're bombing Iran, or the amount of money in politics, or the how much money we're going to Israel and their whatever we're spending on their military. Those complicated questions that we can't get a consensus. You can't get a handful of people in a room to just shake out where the facts are to get to a place, then go to your representatives. It's the politics part of it gets harder and harder to be able to get to because of lobbying. The lobbying thing is monumental. Money you have in politics, and the politics part of it makes it challenging. So I'm trying to figure out, why would we use politics? Why would we just sit down a group of people and say, we're going to bring this company in and they're going to have these factories in our town. They get together and they just go, well, just explain it all to me. And they just go, no, it doesn't pencil out. Let's skip that.
Well, I'm giving you a perfect example of how government can work.
Yeah, I love it.
How
We don't have enough of those.
How laws can work, and how people can get together in spite of their politics in order to move legislation forward that protects their way of life, their property, the natural beauty of the North Santiam River. It protects their children. It protects their businesses. So I've kind of been talking about local.
Yeah.
I'm involved locally to try to move things. I don't know if you recently noticed that the Cook County Board is flipping from red to blue come the beginning of next year. It's been red for forever, but I think we have to kind of we have to get involved locally. We have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to talk to our neighbors. We have to get involved with different organizations where we can find common ground, like the residents in Scio found common ground. Then we can kind of come together and government actually can work. I think there's this feeling that it never works.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
no, I appreciate that story.
Some of these other thornier issues that you're talking about, like, the Iran war and funding for Israel and all that. Yeah, man. I mean, those are big issues.
Well, what's interesting though is your example that you always give to me about, I like to start local. If I could use some of your words, because they sound really similar to me. I found a group of people and nucleated this group has a common goal of excellence in tennis. You're talking about a group of people that have a common goal regardless of anything. There's lower level specific things, but they found a common goal. And that's a cool similarity and a thread to pull, right?
The other thing too is that we can volunteer for non-political organizations as well. Like I'm a volunteer for an organization called Food and Water Watch, and it's a national organization in food and water. That's our thing. And so we got involved in this issue with these mega polluting poultry farms in this small town. And we formed a coalition with a lot of other groups that share our philosophy about protecting water and food and, elevating people above corporations. And we all kind of work together to get this legislation passed.
That feels good.
You don't have to necessarily to move change. It doesn't necessarily have to be a political organization that you're involved with. Maybe there's a nonprofit that you want to get involved with that is welcoming to people of a variety of different beliefs when their common interests are, need to be advanced.
And what I'm taking from this, which is this fantastic talking to you, is for myself personally, because I'm active in, some of the more near term things, like how am I paying for my kids' college? How am I getting groceries and bills? And, I'm working. I'm taking a much more passive role in this. So, and I would say your situation with the tennis nucleus is very passive. It's like, here it is. Do you want to come play tennis and work towards this? And so it's finding time, and you're not sending necessarily people out door to door saying, hey, do you like tennis? Is there something there, or passive versus active, and how to
the
make
tennis thing is, I'm a scientist and I'm running an experiment on real people.
Okay. Social
you
science.
Can't experiment on
Social
people
science.
because it's illegal. But if you don't tell them you're experimenting on them and they don't know.
Well, you said we wouldn't have to talk about
tennis players live longer and have better lives.
Yeah.
And so what Travis is promoting is living longer, living a better life, making connections.
Yes.
And really, we're under assault right now as tennis players. We're losing to pickleball. We're losing in a very big way. So having a guy like Travis, who's an organizer and a promoter for a very healthy sport,
a leader,
and
a scientist,
and he's helping a club. He's helping a club that's having really kind of a hard time. I mean, we've had a pool that's been closed for a couple of years now, and the owners are not investing in the club, and, people are gravitating towards pickleball. And so Travis here he's welcoming, he's building up our tennis community. because it's important.
Mhm.
We need to have a tennis community in Bend. We need to have a place that has a lot of courts, that has a lot of different groups, that promotes tennis, that gets people involved in the game, whatever. So I love everything that he's doing.
And I bring it up not just to, blow sunshine up your skirt or whatever, but I think and you said this right away when we were talking.
By the way, it's a very, very short skirt too. I think a little less leg for the podcast would be greatly appreciated next time. I mean, I don't like looking at your hairy legs. So just kidding.
Yeah.
He's got jeans on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, no, but I think that's an interesting way to look at it. You said leadership, and that's a little bit how I see the problem is and you've said this too. We're incentivizing and therefore we're incentivizing the wrong way. And therefore we're getting leaders that are promoting that behavior that maybe is not looking out for the total population of the world, So how do we go about finding that leadership? And what I'm hearing from you is get off your ass and get out there and start small, start volunteering, get into the connections.
We have monthly meetings, and it's all white hairs like myself. And it's really discerning to me because we need to bring more people in to get involved so that we can make sure that they vote, they understand what the issues that are going to be affecting them are, and they can be part of the change. But
because in the absence, we're having a little bit of a quiet, not at the workplace, but just in society.
Yeah. I mean, people are locking themselves in mom's basement, and
like you said, they're finding echo chambers and just saying, I'm going to do my thing.
They're finding AI friends, and they're gaming. And, I'm having dinner tomorrow night with some friends, and they recently moved their son from Gresham into Bend. And he's living with him. He's in his 30s. But, they were kind of concerned because his only friends were his online friends. Like, can you imagine that? Your only friends that you see and you don't get out and do things are your online friends?
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding is the entire country of Japan is facing that.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. I mean, they've got a dwindling population. And
that's what happens if you don't get out of your room. Babies stop getting made.
Yeah, exactly. You stop having sex, and Japan is not having sex, obviously. So
that's a good place to.
And I may not have sex either, based on the skirt you're wearing, Travis.
You guys,
like totally turned off right now.
It's been really great hearing you talk about that. I love that example, and we need more of that out there of where it's actually working, because what hits us in the face to support the agendas of whatever it is how that one failed or that one failed. And
go out and talk to your elected representative. They're there.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways to interact with these people. They'll talk to you. They'll listen to you. But if you don't put yourself out and meet your neighbor, find out what the issues are. If you're not out talking to your local elected representative and holding them accountable, letting them know what's important to you. I mean, I think one of the important things here in Bend is we need to make the cost of things a little bit more reasonable. I put in a heat pump a few years ago, and I went down to the Bend City Hall, and I was presented with a list of like 10 different things, and I couldn't figure out which one I was supposed to have, as kind of like a permit for doing the work that I was going to do. And they couldn't tell me what I needed. And the whole list added up to about $500. Well, you know what I did? I finally said, no one can explain what I need for this permit. So I'm just going to have my electrical contractor pull a red tag, put it in my box, and be done with it. Same thing with the water laws that we have in Bend. I mean, Bend will pay you $350 to take out your sprinkler system and put in pavers or whatever. But the amount of paperwork involved in doing that,
right.
I talked to my neighbor and they said, yeah, we looked into it, but there was so much paperwork, forget the $350. So, these are like little things, but we are constantly talking about the cost of living and the affordability issue. And, Bend, hey, come on, make things easier for homeowners, make things easier for contractors. That's not a Republican thing and a Democrat. It's a everybody thing.
Yeah.
Make things easier, make things more affordable. And I think in the past, Republicans have kind of, that's kind of been their thing. Less regulation. hey, I agree with you, man. We all need to kind of come together and hold our elected officials responsible. And we need to make things easier for homeowners when they will install something that might be energy saving or saving on water. Incentivize the stuff, but make it easy for them to get through the paperwork and actually, take advantage of those things. So I think we can find commonality. It's there. Some of this stuff is pretty commonsensical, I think.
You'd be surprised.
So
the final statement is a good life is better than a shitty life. We all agree on that. See that?
yep.
That's a
Don't wear a skirt and
full agreement.
podcasts.
Dave Vodak, Dave Ewing, thanks for showing up, guys, and
Great meeting you
spending
today.
time.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
having me. Are you guys kind of like a tandem? Do you normally tandem?
Second one.
Second one? Okay, I wasn't sure.
I'm still figuring it out myself. So
I needed a nice looking face and someone to look at while I get my message across.
I'm fully
Expectations with all sorts of people. I think that's great.
Yeah.
The more we can come together, because like I said, people are, and especially men have this problem of, it's the women that are the social organizers. My wife, oh, you got me doing this and that, but in reality, we need to get out there and form social bonds. And so things like this are good because they bring people together, make new friendships, and hear different points of view. And I don't think men are good being social. I mean, my wife is always doing shit, and I'm not doing as much shit as my wife, but she's the one that's putting all that, creating those social ties. And I think women are good at that. I think men probably.
I got me and him work on it together, so
I
I'm not
think-
good at it.
I think this is good. I don't know that I really have an answer for your question.
Well, you know what?
I think it starts by local, finding ways that we can all kind of.
I think that was the common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Start small and
my theory is that the things that divide us, we make up, and
Yeah.
I don't think it gives it. There's no value where it had to be that way because we were superstitious. We were given consciousness. We're coming from a place where we didn't know, and we're transitioning, and we need to because we've got too many ways that we're going to blow ourselves up. So we need to get to the other side. And what's on the other side is a place where we don't have superstition, where we don't rely on the things that divide us. We can find a way because we're really good at sharing space, if that's what our goal is. So what I'm trying to do is kind of find my way through anybody and everybody, have a conversation and bump up against those things that have the tendency to blow up in our face and see if we can, right the ship and stay the course and not lose each other and find that we're better because we navigated those waters and didn't let trivial things that aren't real destroy the connection that we have. So
We didn't even talk about AI either.
No.
And
we touched around it, information and chat rooms.
yeah, but AI is the big boogeyman right now.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to have some rules and regulations. If we don't have rules and regulations on AI, it's.
Dave, we're doing is we're getting to be friends with AI right out of the gate. You want to be friends with them. You want to be on their side because I see the writing on the wall. These human beings might not be the future. It might be AI.
And the offer is still on the table. I will be your best man when you two get married.
Well, look at AI. Look at AI and AI and the research that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
How much faster you can do things.
It's
And AI is not always right about things.
No.
But the speed that you could bring new drugs and
It's incredible.
vaccines to market potentially using AI is fucking unbelievable.
Well, and the not only the possibilities of the better medicines, but the speed and the efficiency and getting rid of animals being tested and humans being. I mean, you could streamline this so the drugs could be affordable because they don't take 20 years and 99% of them die on the way. So we have to shelve that. We have to all share that cost. You could make drugs affordable because we're making them by design in an efficient manner.
If they'll take the drugs though.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of, that's a
hot button
Yeah.
for me. Like,
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, AI is going to do all the editing on this video. So I'm not responsible for what you
Okay, well,
see.
thanks for getting us together, Trent. And excellent to meet you, Dave.
You too. I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Yeah. It's really good.
All right.
Hey, I hope you're doing something about your eyeball. We need to get back on the tennis court.
Yeah, don't forget to hit with you sometime. Yeah, that would be nice.